Such a special delight for Sue and I to be able to be back with you this morning. We are. I think we can say that we're doing well and enjoying this season of our lives in sort of part-time ministry as the chaplain for the Roman Auto Group. Have opportunity. I appreciate Matt's encouragement. This week, for example, on Tuesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'll be having lunch with employees in Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, and Lafayette, and our theme this week is foundations, and what are you building your life on? And we're just going to talk about what Jesus said in Matthew 7 about building your life on the rock, building your life on the sand, and the storms of life comes along. And the conversations that we have, the interactions that we're having, nothing against you folks or other churches, but man, it's a lot of fun talking about Jesus outside of the church context where the folks really don't have much of a stake of that they need to be right. They just say what they think, and they say what they're feeling, and they ask the questions that come to their heart, and it's a blessing for us, and we're so thankful to God that He's given us that opportunity in this time of our lives. Did you want to say hi or anything? Sue says hi. Psalm 46 in your Bibles, please. Appreciate Pastor Matt's comments. It really serve as an introduction to where we want to encourage each other this morning in Psalm 46. Maybe with this question: what do you find yourself saying and singing these days? What comes to mind? What actually comes out of your mouth? What are you saying and singing in these days when it's possible to feel quite vulnerable, to feel quite afraid, unsafe, insecure, troubled. And we could describe a number of situations in our personal lives, whether it's health issues or family issues or so forth. But in reality right now, there's a number of us who would identify at least with, I'm really concerned, man alive, if in a week or two that side wins, whoa. And then some of us would say, well, but what if that side wins? Oh, my. I mean, this is just a troubling thing, isn't it? Just troubling? And I don't really care about what political party or what side you happen to be on, but if we're not careful, it will easily be reflected in what we say and what we sing, and we'll be giving the message out that that's inconsistent with what our hearts really believe about God. I just want to go through Psalm 46 with you this morning. It's a song that is frequently, it's obviously in the Scriptures, sung by the people of God as their confession of faith. It was something that as they would come to gather together as the people of God, this song, this poem, would remind them that we've been out in the world all week. Boy, did you hear what the Amalekites have just done? Did you hear what the Moabites, did you hear about the weapons the Moabites just came up with? Did you hear the story about what our king did last week? And they come together and they're reminded, all right, this is our faith. This is what we believe. This is what we have staked everything about our lives on. We are a kingdom of priests to our God. We are a part of another kingdom that is not of this world. And this is what we believe about God in times of trouble. The confession of faith, Psalm 46, has as your confession of faith should, and as my confession of faith is what I say and sing regularly. It has a sort of a robust, it has sort of a defiant tone to it. It is almost as if it could very well be compared to the 6-year-old, the 7-year-old on the playground saying to the bully, well, my dad can beat up your dad. It's that level of confidence. That's where my hope is. Our confessions of trust, what we say and sing, serve several purposes. It gives us confidence when troubling times come our way. It does serve to distinguish us from those who trust in other things. It's almost, I don't know if you understand the word swagger. Some of us have lost our swagger. We've lost that sense of being able to walk through the world and still say and sing what we genuinely believe. We pick up, as you guys are studying apparently about evangelism, we tend to pick up the messages of the world and repeat them when we're under stress or under pressure or when we find ourselves afraid. Psalm 46 and many of the Psalms and many of the scriptures are intended to give us, and that's what I want to encourage you with this morning, is actually give us the vocabulary. Give us the phraseology. Give us the confidence to say what we really believe. For I think that when you find yourselves in conversations with people and they bring up, what if that side wins? Did you hear this one say this? And did you see that video? That you're able to look them right back in the eye and say, God is our refuge and strength. He's a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Yeah, I know that's going on. I feel it too. I'm as afraid as you are. Did you know that there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God? It's the holy habitation of the Most High. God dwells there. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. Do you understand that the nations rage? That kingdoms totter? He utters his voice and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And then again, someone comes along and says, but you just don't understand. You just don't understand how bad things really are. You don't understand that if this guy or this guy gets in, or do you know what he or she's going to do? And out of your mouth, coming right up from your heart, out of your mouth comes, well, come, look, behold. God has made, look at the works of the Lord, how he has made desolations on earth, how he has made wars cease to the ends of the earth. You understand? He burns the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. And then this is his voice. Be still. And know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. I'm not just quoting him, that's him. He is determined. He will be exalted. Now let's repeat it. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And to be able to talk, to be able to sing, to be able to say, our confession, our confidence, in times of crisis, we If we're not careful, we'll live in two different worlds where we have a voice, a message in what we would call the kingdom of this world, and we then have another voice and another message for when we're at church or when we're around the people of God. I don't know about you, but have you come to this self-realization yet that there is stuff that you know about God, and there is stuff that you believe about God, and yet there's also times where what you know about God, what you believe about God, and what you'll even defend is true about God has not yet given you settled peace inside. It hasn't yet helped you just settle down and have a sense of peace and hope and confidence in Him when everything around us seems to be just totally blowing up. That's why we're gathered today, by the way, isn't it? That we can look at each other, we can shake hands with each other, we can hug each other, and we can talk this way to each other to encourage us to sing and say what we believe is true about God. Let's look at the psalm together. I just want to walk down through it. What you say and what you sing about God, about your relationship with Him, and we don't have a lot of time to do that, but we could connect this. You remember the word picture that Paul gives in Colossians 1 or 2, somewhere in there. It's there. The exact location is yet to be determined, but it's where he pictures us as hidden. Those of us who've been born again, we have saving faith. We are children of God. We are hidden with Christ in God. There's no more of a secure place with Christ hidden in God. That is New Testament way of expressing what we're reading in Psalm 46. Psalm 46, will you just, if it's open in your lap there, let me just walk through it with you, all right? To understand it, and then we'll come back and just apply it in a couple different ways or challenge each other in this singing and saying what we believe is true about God in our confession of confidence in Him. First of all, God is our refuge and strength. God is the reader is, it's assumed that the reader understands this is the God of the Bible. This is the God who created all things, sustains all things. He oversees all things. He is the ruler, creator, sustainer of all. This God is, now this is a huge issue right now. That God who created, sustains, and rules is something to me. All right? That's, by the way, that's the message of Christianity. That gap of the creator, the sustainer, and the ruler of all things can be something to me. I have a relationship with Him. He is my refuge and my strength. Refuge being He is my defense. When I need help, I can run and hide. And He is my strength. He is my offense when I need to perform, when I need to act and behave and obey in difficult situations. He is a very present help in trouble. There is a readiness on God's part to be found. A very present help in time of trouble. Present is that he's ready to be found and He is sufficient for any situation. And so he brings up the word trouble. Well, he now helps us as the reader explain. He explains, he gives us word pictures. What do you mean trouble? And so he goes into it. Now this is where our imaginations need to kick in. Because, I mean, not very much maybe if you've watched any video of the flooding or of the hurricanes and so forth, and you've seen houses being swept down streams and cars blown away in the wind and so forth. Perhaps some of that will help us in this. But remember, this is a few years before cars were invented, but he still gives us this word picture. It's this incredible word picture. We will not fear, though the earth gives way, And he just piles it up. The repetition, the magnitude, the scope. Can you imagine? Though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though the sea's waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at the swelling of the waters. I don't know how old you were, but I was somewhere second, third grade. I remember learning that water is like 75% of what the planet, right? It's huge. So you take those waters and they're sucking in the mountains. The waters are roaring and foaming. The mountains are trembling. There's nothing, everything is shaking. You look around and there's nothing settled like it should be, it seems like. Now the contrast, the turn. Every good song, every good statement of confession of belief, now there's a turn contrasting all of this movement that we see around us. Verse 4, there's a river whose streams make glad the city of God. Where does that take us as a Bible reader? Well, we have to go back to Genesis 1 and 2, right? That's where we found out where God lives. There are these well-watered streams that just are feeding everything. It is a place of peace. The song reminds us that's where the Most High lives. He is in the midst of her. There is a place, folks, where God is, and He is not moved. He is not moved at all by all of the movement and the roaring and the foaming and the trembling that is happening on this planet and in our lives. He is home and secure and not being moved. As a matter of fact, it's interesting just to think through as you dwell on it some in verse 5, God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. Who's the she? Who's the her? And I think it's sort of a poetic way of just teasing us. The truth is the people of God are with him. The people of God dwell with him. In reality, not now, but yet in fact, our confidence is found in that my God, who is my strength and my refuge, who is with me, he is not moved by all of this stuff around me. He is the same. He is strong. He is consistent. As a matter of fact, he makes the promise, not only is he in the midst of her, but verse 5, he will help her when morning dawns. There's coming a time. Now notice the contrast between this well-resourced, safe, quiet, unmoving habitation of the Most High. What are the nations doing? Raging. Now, let's not get into it too deeply, but are all nations raging? Put it another way. Is there a nation on this planet that is not raging against God? I would submit, no, there isn't. There is not a nation on the planet. Has there ever been? No. Will there ever be? No. That's what nations do. Ever since Genesis 11, that's what nations do. Is they try to present a way of life, and they try to put life together in such a way that it's possible to live without true, genuine submission to God and his Son, Jesus Christ. Nations rage. Psalm 2 helps us understand that. Kingdoms, are you clear in your mind right now? That when Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world, when he says in Matthew, and we see it other places in the scriptures, our citizenship is in, boy, that's healthy, that's comforting, because nations rage. Kingdoms Totter. That's the second word that describes that playground thing, right? You either are teetering or tottering. But nations are tottering. They're totally unstable. When we begin to place our confidence in nations, when we begin to place our confidence in kingdoms that are raging and tottering, what that does is it messes our message up. It creates inconsistency. It breaks the wiring down between what we believe about God and what we say and sing about God. And we get confused. And I don't know that I have any special answers for that other than I think if we feed our hearts and minds on confessions of faith like Psalm 46, that we're going to tend to be able to see where nations and kingdoms are headed and where God is, and we're going to be able to sing and say in a truthful representation of who our God is. We believe it. We long for it. We ache for other people to find in Him hope and help. But yet sometimes those nations and those kingdoms just play with our minds. And they scare our affections. And we lose track that there's a city, that there is a place where God dwells. And He is with us. He utters His voice, the earth melts. I think that's a bit more than a hint that where is all of this headed? Well, it's all headed for judgment, isn't it? It's all headed for judgment. There's coming a day when God will utter His voice, and all of those who have rejected Jesus Christ, all of those who have come up with better ways, all of those who put their confidence in something other than Christ, the earth will melt. What a word picture. And then the psalmist goes back and says, hey, now remember, here it is. If you want something to make a flag about, if you want something to make a banner about, you want something for your bumper sticker, you want a tattoo for it, now let's don't do that. But the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. That's my confidence. And then that last stanza beginning in verse 8, come, look, here's this invitation to us. Will you look with me, see it, look at what God does. How throughout history, not just Bible times, but throughout history, He has brought desolations, hard times, troubling things, very troubling things on the earth. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I know the news is hard to watch now. I had a man in Fort Wayne a couple of weeks ago at one of our studies. I mean, in front of like 8 other employees. He said, Don, I think I could believe you about this Jesus. I just can't reconcile it, though, with the picture of the mom carrying her dead child out of that hospital that got bombed in Gaza. I don't know how you put those things together. And I did this. I just chuckled a little bit and said, thank you. Man alive, thank you. Let's talk more about that. Because if you're at that point where you're struggling to put the desolations together with the truth about God, then you're close. At least you're thinking. At least you're understanding reality. That it is God who brings desolations on the earth. He allows, He brings. Why? Because the nations are raging. Because kingdoms are tottering. Because no one among the nations is recognizing the one and true God. And this has been a promise consistent with God throughout, ever since He has begun to reveal Himself is. I am the creator, the ruler. Now we'll get there in just a moment, right? Because I don't know what tone of voice you would say, I will be exalted. among the nations. Would you say it? Yeah, I think I'd like to be exalted among the nations. If you guys will let me. I mean, if you guys are for it, if you just vote right, I think I could add something to the equation. Or has the voice of God come through something like, I will be? You guys are raging. You guys are tottering. You're trying. But through it all, I am the ruler, the controller, the sustainer, the creator of all things. I will be exalted. And so I look at the young man who asked the question and said, what you're seeing you may not understand. But the answer to all of the hurt, all of the pain, all of the brokenness, all of the stuff that we can't explain, and it just breaks us down, it even makes us lose hope sometimes, is that our God is in control, and he is going to be exalted among the nations in real time. And so that last stanza, understand that this is what God does. He makes war cease to the ends of the earth. He's in control. Now the bow, the spear, and the chariots, those are like advanced weaponry of the day, right? I mean, this would match anything in our culture. We would come up with, different weaponry. But understand that he breaks the bow, shatters the spear, burns chariots with fire, and now all of this confession of faith leads us to listening, hearing, and acknowledging God is talking. You see the quotation marks in there? This is God. This is him from his holy habitation saying to you and me, be still. And again, what voice inflection do you use on that? Do you yell like the impatient, I was going to say mom, but dad, be quiet? Or do you just sort of, since I have your attention, would you just be still? Stop it. Stop all the noise. Just be still and listen. Here it is. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. What more do you want to know? What else do you need to know? Well, I know what I want to ask. When? What are the signs of your coming? And we quickly lose the powerful impact of be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Here's what God does. Here's who God is. Here's where I will be exalted. And then again, wraps the whole thing up. Here's our bumper sticker, guys. Here's what we say when we run out of other things to say. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. The Lord of hosts, the Lord of many armies. The Lord of hosts is the name that David, just before he had that slingshot thing with that very large person, just before he cut his head off and with his sword, he said to this very large man, he said, yeah, I don't know if you know what you're getting into. The Lord of hosts is with me. I know that doesn't mean much to you, but I would walk away right now if I were you. The Lord of hosts is with me. That's the level of confidence that we have. 3, do you guys still get out at noon? 10, 5, 10. We start at 9:15, so 10, okay. So that's the statement, that's the confession of faith, all right? Now, let's see if we can sort of massage it into our thinking and practice a little bit. let me encourage you that when for us to say and sing what we truly believe, we need to begin, we need to start. It can't happen without us being humble, all right? There has to be some level where we acknowledge that we need help. Note in each stanza of the psalm, trouble is described in various ways, along with the influence that it causes in our lives. A key theme emerges throughout the psalm. I think it's intentional that trouble is pictured as moving, right? You've got the earth moving, you've got the seas moving, you've got the mountains moving, and all of them are moving in ways that they're not supposed to move. Mountains are supposed to stay where mountains belong. Sea is supposed to do what sea does. Earth is supposed to be the place where we can just be confident. But all of them are pictured as moving. Not only this moving theme, but then the nations are moving, the kingdoms are tottering. Life on this planet is a moving target. It can be overwhelming, right? So I want to ask you, what's number one? What's number two on your "this really shakes me up" list? What is it that you just find yourself talking about that is really, it just really concerns you? I mean, it really shakes you up. That would be consistent with the theme of this song. That would be consistent with the statement of confession. In other words, if you're not ready to say, yeah, there are things that shake me up, but I don't want to act like it. I don't want to be a sissy about it. I don't want to appear weak. I don't want to appear like I have everything under control. And by the way, I am a Bible-believing Christian, and they always have things neatly attached in certain files and boxes and so forth. See, the very premise of the song, the very premise of the confession of faith is, I am a person who lives in a world and who lives in a life that is constantly on the move. There's very little around us that is not moving. And whether it's natural disasters, political craziness, wars, personal tragedy, all of that, or the subset of issues. However, we miss the point, folks, and this is where I think we can actually encourage each other this morning in one way. We miss the point if we just whine and we sob about how hard life is, how much the world is moving around us. The point is this, that all the movement around us causes us to move. That is the definition, at least in this song, of fear. I believe this, I know this is true, but yet when the stress comes my way, I'm moved. And I express myself. What comes out of my mouth and what the songs that come out of my heart are not representative of what I say I believe. It is being moved, pushed, pulled away from confidence that we have, and we place our confidence in something less than our Creator God. What moves you? When you are shook up, the old illustration, the bottle of water is shook, the water comes out. Why did the water come out? Because the water was in there. What comes out of you? Acknowledge it. Admit it. In other words, there must be some way among us that we can talk about our need for help, our need for confidence, our need for comfort and peace, on the one hand, without just whining and complaining about it and moaning and groaning and having everybody agree that that's bad and then you walk away. There's got to be a way for us to say, this world is moving so rapidly, it's moving me. I need help. I need help even keeping my confidence in the God that I love, the God that I believe in. I'm picking up all kinds of other, in other words, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it without having to come up with answers right away. I am shook up. The greatest hope, one of the greatest lines, and I have a different great line in every day that I come to this psalm, but God will help her when morning dawns. There's just something about that. She shall not be moved. So, if we're not ready to, if all we're going to do is say the world is terrible, I'm so concerned if that side wins or that side wins, and then we just want to sort of stew in that and find somebody that agrees with us and say, oh, praise the Lord, I found somebody that agrees with me that the world is as bad as I think it is. Let's move each other, okay? Let's continue to encourage each other, massage each other toward the Lord of hosts is with me. The God of Jacob is my fortress. Another, not only do we need to be more comfortable, learn how to just say, I really am being moved. I need encouragement. It would be that I think we need to learn some vocabulary about God. One reason this psalm has a remarkable appeal to the people of God is all the various descriptive, vivid statements it makes about God in the midst of a moving world. If you just review them, you think down through the psalm. Who God is? Well, He's our refuge and strength. He's the Lord of hosts. He's the God of Jacob. By the way, He's the God of Jacob, the God who wrestles with rebellious people and wins by giving them grace. That's who our God is. He's the God of Jacob. He's the God of He's the Lord of hosts. He's our fortress. I have to admit, I've hung around the Bible for a few years and hung around God's people for a few years. I have to admit, my vocabulary in describing God is pretty limited. I can do it when I need to. I can do it when I perform. But I mean, just in everyday life, what are the phrases that you pull out that describe God and who He is to you? Are you able to at least come close to, He is my refuge and strength. He is the Lord of hosts. He is the God of Jacob. He is my fortress. Are you able to describe Him in just regular everyday language? Oh, the Lord will help us. He utters His voice and the earth melts. He controls wars and trouble. He's still on the throne. He lives in a place whose river makes glad. The streams make glad. There's resource, there's power, there's life. Where is He? Well, He's president. He's available. He's enough. He's with us. He's in the midst of her. The Most High God is at home. And I take rest in that. See, the confession of Psalm 46 is based on the premise that God can be known and trusted. This morning isn't necessarily my heartbeat for you, and I think the theme of the psalm is not, get this, will you? Decide right now that you're going to be a Psalm 46 person. The real point of it is this. Will you return to Psalm 46 ever? Will you grab a hold of other songs and statements and confessions about God? And how are you going to hang on to them? How are you going to encourage others to hang on to them? And so, what is on your, this shakes me up. The next question would be, I think out of the psalm would be this: what is your go-to truth? What is your go-to passage that right now that you would use to build up, to demonstrate, to communicate your confidence in God? What verse comes to mind? What truth about God? What shakes you up? And what's your go-to passage in the Bible right now that you are able to take and do battle with that which shakes you up the most. That's church, folks. That's what we want to encourage each other today, is that what shakes us up is meant to be nurtured, wrestled with, surrounded by, massaged by these wonderful truths about God. Is he a present help in trouble? Do you find that he is readily available and sufficient? And some of you are shaking your heads the right way. And some of you may be thinking, I believe that and I want to believe it more. That's what we want to do, is just encourage each other. Go ahead. God's going to be there, by the way, when morning dawns. When the darkness is sort of blown away, the fog is lifted, the lights come on just a little bit more. You'll open your eyes, you'll feel the anesthesia wearing off, and you'll wonder, who's that guy? And he'll be there all the way through the process. So, what shakes you up? What's your go-to passage? What's the truth right now that you're hanging on to? And then just a final sort of an application would be, I think, it's true in my experience, I think you can say it from Psalm 46. I think earlier when I quoted Psalm 46 to you, which by the way has taken me about 6 months to handle, when I quoted Psalm 46 to you, I wouldn't be surprised if in your heart and mind, once you got by the thought, oh, he's a show-off, to the next thought being, this is encouraging. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to talk like that. I want to be able to bring the scriptures from my mind and my heart right out to my world. And you do. And you can. And this morning, probably the biggest deal is allowing Psalm 46 confession, the example of this song and poem, to what you say and sing, just in your heart and mind saying, I want to renew my confidence in God. I want to this morning make a renewal of my trust in God as my life, as my world continues to move all around me. I want to this morning tighten and retighten my grip on this God. Come on, folks, he's either real or he's not. Right? He is either this or he's not. Now, we can continue to play games. We can continue to do our own thing. We can continue to trust in our self-righteousness and our faithfulness to attend service and to serve and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what we need to hear this morning, in the times that we live, in the things that are shaking us up, is that either God is the Lord of hosts or he's not. He is a present help in trouble or he's not. And I want to welcome you to think about that and renew at whatever level you can, at whatever level the Spirit of God is working in your heart this morning. I want you to respond to God and say, yes, I believe you are who you say you are. And I want to enjoy that. I want that peace, that hope, that reality to settle like a fog over my soul and just keep me quiet before God. Be still. No. That isn't know that I am God, like pass a theology test. It is in reality when you wake up in the morning and you're on your way to work, or you're sitting there with your cup of coffee, or you just, doggone it, I know I don't need to do this, but you just watch those videos off the news again, and all of a sudden you just find this settled quietness because you've been still The noise filters away because our God is our strength and our refuge. He is available. He's responsive. He's sufficient. We know that. Every person in the room who's walked with God for 7 days has a story about the responsiveness and the power and the goodness of God. Let's call ourselves back to that. In these days, let's renew, all right? Let's just again, with our songs and with our mouths, say again, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. And you can pick it up from there. All the those that follow.